Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Sheffield for the 7th round in the A category of TORUS Season 3. Yes, we are here to have a go at the 7th event in this season of the TORUS Cup, a month-long series organised by course setters from around the world and can be found here on the Tempo Simulator, the link to which can be found in the description of this video. Now today we're coming back to Great Britain for an event in Sheffield organised by Matthew Pickering and advised by Robert Finch. And those of you that competed in the very first TORUS Cup back last year, you'll remember that Matt set a course round his university. So that was a very good course and I did enjoy it a lot, and if you do want to have a go at that, that is available on the simulator in the TORUS Season 1 Spring section. But today we have a different course set by him and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what he's got in store for us. Now firstly I should probably point out that there was a complaint made about the event we did last Thursday in Italy, and it was about the mapping in Station 7, and it was decided that although the EB doesn't agree with the statements, it agrees the map was poor but there was little impact on the solvability of the tasks, and so the station wasn't voided, it stayed standing. And to be honest, I think I agree with that. I have looked over it and I can see that everything does seem to match up kind of with the map. There's a couple of discrepancies here and there, but I do think everything did look okay in the end. But yeah, that was with Thursday's event. Here we're on Tuesday's event. It's a new day and the only things that matter at the moment are the things that happen in this course. So let's just jump straight into it now. We're going into the Season 3 Spring section and the Advanced section, and then into Event 7. Which today is a 1 to 3000 map with 2 metre contours. There are 8 stations with a 30-second penalty for every wrong answer, and the zero tolerance is 4 metres, no side problems. The terrain is forest and open areas with rock detail, and the instructions are that there are big boulders which are mapped as crags surrounding bare rock. So that should just be a grey area surrounded by a black line to represent the crags. And I don't think there's too much more to get out of that. It should be an interesting event, especially since it's forest and we haven't had many of them. They tend to be more urban. So yeah, this should be good fun. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen so you can see exactly what I'm putting, correct or wrong, with the black and red letters respectively at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at this 7th event in this season of the TORUS Cup. And here is Station 1. Okay, there's a fence in the middle with some crags. I'm presuming that's potentially going to be the areas with 3 at the back. That's the fence, so with this side of the fence, that does seem to be the re-entrance, so that area is going to be Foxtrot. With that massive tree back there, going to have to be Bravo. All the way at the back, can I believe that? Okay, if that's a spiked rock at the front, no, I can actually believe that. Yeah, I'm going to say that's Charlie. We've come forward and we want that part. So that is going to be Echo, and that crag there, or that re-entrant, it's too far away from the thing. I think that's a 0. And that was an interesting Station 1 actually. It was quite nice to anchor on a fence in the woodlands. That did bring us in quite nicely, and I think we managed to navigate quite easily to Foxtrot and then to Bravo on the big tree to confirm we were in the right place. It was just trying to work out whether Charlie was actually that far back, but I do think it was in the end because I could see the small triangles of rock working up to it, and so I was happy with that one with Charlie. We then came forward to Echo on the rock though in front of us, and then into the re-entrant for the final task, but I think Delta was too close to the fence to be the correct task, and I think Alpha was out the re-entrant, so I was happy to zero that one. It's the final task, and that was quite a nice station. It's nice to get a good idea of the sorts of areas we're going to be working with. Very technical, but we are now prepared for it as we go into Station 2. Okay, there's the crags with the area. There's potentially a fence back there. Okay, that is the main path. So that's got to be the circle with the massive crag canopy. The top of that bit is going to be Alpha, with that bend, or the bend in the river. Can I believe that's Delta? Yeah, I'm going to have to. That corner, outside corner, will be Foxtrot. That tree is miles away, and that corner is going to be Echo. And I was a lot happier with that station actually. It was less features to try and anchor on, but I do think it was still quite tricky in places, especially trying to place us to start with. I wasn't convinced that that path that was marked on the map was actually that big on the photo, but the rocks around it did seem to fit quite nicely, and so I eventually ended on with Alpha for the first task. The only one I think was a 0 there was the 4th one on the wrong tree, but if we were confident in our 3 for the first 3, we would have known that was definitely the wrong tree. I just hesitated slightly thinking about Charlie, and then also Delta was a small hesitation on the bend in the river, but I think in relation to where the boulder was in front of it, it was quite nicely placed. So yeah, I don't think I have any problems with that station, and so we'll just go on to station 3. Okay, it's a lot of rock face down the hill. There's a couple of trees and a wall. So there's the wall with the couple of trees going into the woodland. That's surely the right place, right? So that's a 0. To which the end of the wall is going to be Foxtrot. All the way down there, 2 trees. Is that the distinctive tree? I think that's too far down as well. Where that tree is going to be, I'm pretty sure is Charlie, and then we're coming up here, to which I think that's the corner by, so that's got to be Echo. And that was a very interesting third station. It's one of the first sort of aerial views I think we've had down a rock face down the side of a hill, but I did really like it. And I think the key thing to anchor on to start with, which I did, was the long wall with the couple of trees. And so when quite a few of you were panicking that maybe you couldn't quite see where we were and you were trying to fit all the kites to the right place, I was confident to say it was a 0, as it was too far around the crags away from the wall. And then we came to Foxtrot for the second task, so you were very quick to potentially put Foxtrot there and realise your mistake in the first one. The only one I'm slightly doubting though is the third task being a 0, as I spent a lot of time trying to work out if Alpha was far enough down, but I think the task was too far to the left hand side to be Alpha, and so I'm happy with that one being a 0 for now. That may be a mistake, but I'm going to stick with it. And yeah, I did like that station. It's changed it up a bit, and so I don't really know what to expect here as we go into station 4. Okay, there's a big rock in the middle with 2 trees at the back with Bravo and Delta. Tree, so that's got to be the big rock. And so we're coming round to there. So that's actually got to be Foxtrot, with the tree there being Delta. We're coming up, or we're coming behind us actually, so that one is a 0. And then that corner's Charlie, and there is Alpha. Although I may have been too quick for the Alpha, but I'm pretty sure it was, as that's where I placed it in the third task being a 0 behind us. But that to me was a much nicer and quicker station. I had Bravo and Delta quite nicely on trees with a massive block in front of us of Charlie, and we had that crag with the bare rock in it and a tree just to the right hand side. I was starting to work my way towards Echo or Foxtrot. It just took me a small while to notice it was Foxtrot on the top of the rock rather than Echo at the edge of it. And then we confirmed with Delta on the tree before the 0, and then Charlie, and then Alpha. And I thought that was quite a nice fourth station to take us through the first half of the day, and now we come into the second half, starting with station 5. Okay, there's another view. There's potentially the walls again with a path running through. I still haven't got 6 kites, but that's got to be the main path, and we're coming off to the left hand side. So I'm pretty sure that's Alpha on that corner, and then we're coming forward to Bravo. Unless I've made the mistake. No, that does look like Bravo. And then that does actually look like Charlie, and we're working our way round up against the wall. That seems like the wrong tree. Yeah, I'm going to 0 that. And then that bit of area, I still feel like no kites are there. And I'd only just spotted Echo, so I am confident that that one is a 0 for the final task. It was 2 zeros to finish off, which did feel a bit weird, especially since I was going Alpha, Bravo, Charlie for the first 3 tasks, but I'm confident that they were alright. Going to Alpha for the first one, even though I still didn't have all the kites, I was confident that Alpha was the left hand one, and then we just moved across the photo, so that was quite nice. With the final 2 being 0s, pretty sure on the wrong tree and then the wrong side of the path. But I'm happy with that station. That was quite a nice station 5 for me. The red line's definitely helping to count, even if I didn't have all the kites. But yeah, that was nice, and we will now go straight on to station 6. Okay, rocks in front of us. There's a fallen tree and a gap in the wall. So that's the gap in the wall, so that rock behind that is going to be a 0. And that's a rootstock, but where's the fence? Yeah, that's the wrong rootstock. Coming forward though, that feels like it's Charlie. Yeah, I'm going with Charlie. Gap in the wall. Does look like it is Echo, and then that part of the bare rock is going to be Foxtrot. So I was quite happy then to spot the gap in the wall by Echo, because when the first task came up and we were further up the map than the gap, I was fairly happy to say that wasn't 0. I was just checking whether Delta was on the right rock, but I'm pretty sure it was the one in front of the one we wanted. And then the second task as well with the wrong rootstock, it was the wrong side of the fence, and so I did hesitate a bit just to check, but I was confident to say we had moved a long way away and it was again a 0. To then come to the rock for Charlie, which took even more thinking, as I was expecting it to be behind us and not as close to the rootstock, but I couldn't really see where else on the map Charlie could be, so I just had to believe that. And then we were confident in our placing, going to the gap in the wall for Echo, and then I'm pretty sure it was the correct rock for Foxtrot, but that may again be wrong, and that's the one I'm probably doubting the most there, to be honest. But yeah, I thought it was another nice station, starting with 2 zeros to try and trick us out a bit. But we do come now to the penultimate station of the day, which is station 7. Okay, it's the bare rock at the back, the massive slab, the bits in front as well. Is that the bit in the open? There's a tree there, small tree, and then that boulder in front. Just follow the contours round maybe. So that will probably place it as Alpha. I'm going to go with Alpha, I think. Or maybe that one's Alpha. In relation to that tree, I'm going to go with Alpha again. I've definitely made one mistake here, but that tree back there, or that rock, foot of the crag, is going to be Charlie. Going all the way out there, I'm pretty sure it's Bravo, and then that tree must be Echo. And with 54 seconds and definitely one mistake there, that does look like it's going to be my worst station of the day, because I put Alpha twice and it was definitely 2 different boulders, but one of them definitely was Alpha. It was just a debate whether one of them was 0 or one of them was Delta, but I thought rather than having that debate I'd just put Alpha twice, because I know one of them definitely is Alpha, and I'm less likely to get one of them right if I change my answer. So I was eventually happy to go with Alpha twice. Maybe the one we wanted was actually between Alpha and Delta for the first one, but then afterwards the other 3 were pretty clear, with Charlie on the foot of the crag, Bravo out to the rock on the left hand side, and also the tree of Echo to finish off. So actually that was quite a nice station, apart from those first 2 tasks which were quite difficult, but I was expecting at least one to trip me up there, and we will see which one it was actually meant to be in a minute, but we'll just forget about it and go on to the final station of the day, which is station 8. Okay, tree right in front of us, crag at the back, Echo and Foxtrot on the one boulder as well. That tree, I can believe that is Delta tree. Rocks back there, it's definitely a 0, with that crag being Charlie. Right at the back, that feels too far that way for their heading, but the heading does look slightly off, so I'm going to believe that's Bravo. And Alpha there to finish off. And with a time of 284 seconds, I don't think that's too bad. Definitely with one mistake in there. That could be really high, that could be really low today, especially with the woodland. But let's go and have a look at the stations for today then. And with the first station, definitely the key thing here was looking at this fence. And really that's the only key feature in here, as there is just a load of rocks in the middle of a forest. There's also the re-entrant actually, just to make sure you're positioned in the right place on the fence. And then we look at the map and see that there are a couple of re-entrants, but here we want the bare rock. And what are we going to be able to place us on? Well, I can definitely see there's a fence and a re-entrant here, and so is this going to fit rather than the re-entrant down here? Well, looking at it, there does seem to be a small bit of bare rock on the right hand side of the fence, which I'm pretty sure has Echo on it here, and that does seem to match up also with the bit of bare rock we actually want to the right hand side. So not definitely knowing we are in the right place here. I think that was quite a nice Foxtrot to start us off, as we also look off to the left hand side and we can see that Bravo is on a tree, which we then do actually visit for the second task. So I think that confirmed our thinking for the first task, and that was a nice Bravo for the second task there. The only one I did have to think about was this third task going forward, and this is where I know I've definitely made a mistake here. And I spent too long thinking about whether Charlie was in the right place here that I wasn't thinking straight, and didn't realise that coming from Bravo on this tree we've come forward rather than backwards. I'd seen this tree and the bit of bare rock down here, changed my mind and said that Bravo and Foxtrot were there, and wondered whether Charlie was that far back. I'm now realising Charlie is all the way over here, and here we're coming back forward from Bravo, and we want the crag right in front of the re-entrant. So we look out to this side side, and Alpha does seem to be on that crag. So that one is now Alpha for the third task. I don't really know how I didn't notice that, to be honest, especially going into the fourth task, and I was still happy we were in the right place here, as here we came to the patch of rock which you said Echo was on to start with. So I was happy to go with Echo for that fourth task, and then finally we go into the re-entrant, and the only kite in the re-entrant is Delta, but it's right up against the fence. So here's where I was debating whether Alpha could be the right answer, but if I'd known that Alpha was the answer to 13, it would have been a very quick 0. So well done if you did manage to do that, and to be honest, I think that was a very good station. The trick with the parallel errors actually coming with the re-entrant and the fence and the bare rock and the tree was quite nice, and it did catch me out with the third task, so very well done if you did manage to get that all right. And then going on to station 2, we had a slightly nicer view here, as what I saw was just 2 craggy rocky areas to the right hand side, a couple to the left hand side as well with a gap in between, and there could be a path running through here, although I didn't expect it to be mapped that big. But there are no other places we could be on the map, so I was confident we were there. And looking at it, there are 2 crags to the right hand side, which are these 2 here, the only place we can be on this path. And then we go to the left hand side and see this rock, which is the one here with Bravo, and then we cross the gap, which does seem to have a river in it, and come to Alpha on the eastern part of that bare rock. So that was a nice Alpha to start off the station. The one that took me a bit more thinking time, although it was a slightly shorter time, it was just getting used to the station in the first task, was here whether this one is going to be Delta or 0 on the river bend. So we know there's definitely a river going in this channel, and it does come up to about where Delta is. It's just working out whether Delta's in the right place or not, and I think it's definitely on the right side of the path to be Delta, and it's just behind this patch of bare rock. So I was happy to eventually put Delta for the second task there, and then we were still confirming we were in the right place as we came to this third one, and here we wanted the northwestern outside corner of this crag. Now I would have wanted crag in this box, but it didn't really hinder, and I would have also wanted, actually looking at it, A to F in all these boxes. It's not really the most crucial thing, but it is just a nice housekeeping thing to just really fine tune this event. But here, looking at it, we want the northwestern outside corner of the crag, and coming back from this massive crag, which does seem to have Echo on it in the thicker crag, we come here to Foxtrot as the one we can probably climb. So I was happy with Foxtrot for the fourth one, and then we went out to the left hand side of the tree, and here the only kite on a tree is going to be Charlie, but we're going left of where Alpha was here, so it's a tree hiding out the photo, and it's definitely a 0. The tree that Charlie's on isn't mapped, but it's probably too small to be mapped, so I was happy to say that one was a 0, to then finally come back to the main crag that we've been working of, wanting the southwestern outside corner of it, and saying that Echo was definitely there to finish off the station. And I did like that station. It was quite a nice compact station with a couple of key features to anchor off, and there didn't really seem to be anywhere else in the circle we could be, so I did like that as a second station. And then moving on to the third one, we had a completely different view, as here we're going down the hill, and it's quite a steep hill with a lot of rocks. So what have we got to anchor off? Well, I had managed to notice by Bravo and Charlie there is a wall, potentially ruined, and there's a couple of trees around, but if you just spotted the trees and the map came up, you could have thought we were anywhere and you would have been trying to make this fit. However, looking at it, the only place where there's a wall on the map is this ruined wall here, and none of the kites are really past the wall very far, and we're going miles past it to this task, so this one must be a 0 as it's all the way back there. And that's really all you needed to solve that, as we then came forward and we were given the northeastern end of the wall. So you would have all realised your mistakes in the first task, came forward and seen that there is a wall here, and Foxtrot does seem to be on the end of it. It's far enough away from the trees, and so I was happy with Foxtrot for that second task. The one I had to think about a bit more though was this third one, going all the way down to this patch of bare rock. And really my only thinking here was trying to work out what the distinctive tree was down here, and seeing whether Alpha was in a reasonable position for it to be the correct kite. But looking down there, I'm pretty sure this is the distinctive tree, and really Alpha does seem too high. It may actually be on the correct height. The other thing I'm seeing is this corner of the crag and trying to draw a line down the hill, and that's maybe pointing Alpha out a bit clearer. So this could actually be Alpha rather than a 0. I'm not completely sure, but I'm going to stick with it being a 0 as I think Alpha is too far to the right. But yeah, that one is a 0 for the moment. And then for the fourth task, we came to the patch of 2 trees closest to the end wall of Foxtrot, and we wanted the southern one and the eastern side of it. So we look out here and we can see there are 2 trees in a line, and that does seem to match up with the wall. And then we look at the base of the tree closest to us, and that does seem to be Charlie on the eastern side of that tree. Although looking at the direction of the north arrow, that is possibly meant to be the northern side, or definitely the northeastern side, but it was definitely the right tree and there were no side problems, so I was happy to just go Charlie for the fourth task. The one I had to think about the most here was this fifth one, and whether this one was Delta or Echo really, because we've already answered Foxtrot. But the thing that made me put Echo over Delta is this corner of the crag coming out that we did kind of use for the third task, and that corner is probably this one here. So we look down here and we can see that Delta's at this corner corner, probably on this rock, and Foxtrot's on the wall, and where we want the task is about halfway between, and Echo is about halfway between Delta and Foxtrot, so I was happy to end off that station with an Echo. And yeah, that station was quite nice. It could be another error with 33, but I'm going to stick with it being a 0 for now, and we'll probably see with our position on the leaderboard whether it's likely to be an error or not. But yeah, I did quite like that station. It was a change from the previous two, and so I did think that was good. And then going on to station 4, we had a much flatter view here with a bit more rockery to work with. Bravo does seem to be back at the tree, but there's a massive boulder here by Charlie, and I think really that was the key thing to anchor on, as the only one that could really be is this one here with the impassable crag going round it, and there is also a boulder cluster in front of it, so I was happy to say that Charlie was there. And then all we're doing here is going right of that boulder, and so we're going to the right hand side, and we want the eastern part of this bare rock coming across, and we can see that Foxtrot does seem to be there. So that was a nice Foxtrot to start off the station, and then to try and confirm that we were in the right place here, we went back to the tree, and we're just going behind the Charlie rock again, coming back to the tree which Delta does seem to be on, and definitely on the western side. So that was a nice Delta for the second task there, before the third task came, and we went all the way back wanting the crag. And really looking at it here, we're going a long way back from where Charlie is, and the only candidate is Alpha, but it does seem too far to the left, so I think Alpha's here instead, and this one was a clear 0 for me, before we then moved to the rock that we said that Charlie was on, and we wanted the northwestern outside corner of the crag, so that was pretty clearly Charlie. And then finally we went to the crag which I said Alpha was on in the third task, and so we ended that station off with an Alpha. And to me that was a much nicer station. We do seem to be going to hard easy stations, which I do like, and is changing the pace a lot, but I think this station was really clear and a nice way to round off the first half of the day, before we then went into the second half with station 5, and here we had another long range view. And I did say before I never really saw all the kites, because I saw the Alpha, Bravo and Foxtrot kites, and then as the tasks came up I kind of saw the Charlie and Delta, but at no point did I see Echo on the rocks down here. I was too busy looking for it up here or somewhere, but it did turn out as it didn't really matter, because the fact that I noticed the Alpha and Bravo rocks along a path with the path also coming through here, we can see for this first task we have this massive distinct path coming through there, and then we have a massive crag that we want on a less distinct path with another crag further north from it, and here it's in a massive patch of open land. So we look up and the only candidates are Alpha and Bravo, but there does seem to be a lot of open land here with the Bravo rock, and we want the next one south of that, so it's the one further to the left. So we follow it down, we can see there's potentially a bit of bare rock there which does fit the map, and Alpha does seem to be on the crag there. So I was happy to say Alpha was the first task for that one, and then we continued to confirm it as we came to the second task, and this is the crag we said Bravo was on. So we can't see any more crags down there. We know we were definitely right for Alpha, and this one is definitely Bravo. And then for the third one we came forward and we wanted here the western part of Bear Rock. So there's two that it's describing, we want this one here, but we're looking in relation to the path which we can follow down, and we see that Delta's right next to the path on a fairly big patch, so it must be this bit here. We come forward and to the left of it to the one we want, and that does place us as Charlie, so I was happy with Charlie there for the third one. Slowly working our way along. If Echo was here instead I would have mispunched that, but it did turn out it wasn't necessary, as the final two tasks were 0s coming to this one, and here we wanted the tree in the circle and the northeastern side of it. So we look out to the right hand side next to the wall and see Foxtrot is on a tree, but it's on the first tree after the break in the wall here. So we have the break in the wall, we go down to the first tree, that's the Foxtrot tree. The actual tree we want is further behind, so is definitely a 0, probably on that small tree there poking out the front tree. So I was happy to 0 that one. The one I had to think about a bit more was this one, thinking about whether this one is probably Delta or 0, as I still didn't need Echo here, but looking at it, it's the other side of the path, and this was the only argument I had to use. The path goes there, Delta's on the side closest to us, and the rock we want is further behind there, and there's no kites on it. Small moment of doubt that the Echo line comes down to about where the rock is, but Echo is definitely there, the wrong side of the path. So that was a nice 0 to finish off the station, and I do think especially going ABC for the first 3 tasks and then going 0-0, the mental aspects of making you put that and not thinking you made a mistake is quite tough. So I do think if you did manage to get that station fully correct, very well done. And then we moved on to station 6, and here we came back into a snowy woodland, and we just have quite a few rocks in front of us. There's a tree, or a rootstock actually, to the left hand side with Alpha on it, and there's also a gap in the wall with Echo in the gap on one end of the wall. So this was the key thing to anchor on here for me, as what I saw was the gap in the wall here, and we have this gap here, and we're just coming across from it. So actually looking at the gap, I was expecting it to be further back, and I'd for some reason managed to count these patches of bare rock wrong, but I have actually just realised this one is Delta rather than a 0 coming across from there, and it's also in relation to the rootstock and the boulder, that does seem to make a lot of sense as Delta now. So this one is actually Delta and is my second or third mistake in the day, depending on task 33. But well done if you did manage to spot that. I think the more interesting task here though was the second one, moving to the rootstock the other side of the fence. And so a lot of you would have potentially been doubting whether you were right for the first task here, but really we're going the other side of the fence, and you can see the fence sticking out the photo here. So we are going a long way to the left hand side of the photo here, and this one is definitely a 0 as the rootstock we actually want is this one here. So I was happy with a 0 for that one. And then the third one took the most thinking here, looking for this area of bare rock, and I'm wondering whether this one is actually a 0 now, because Charlie seems too close to the rootstock, and I think it probably is. However, there is a patch of bare rock there, and I'm wondering why it hasn't been mapped, because it's very distinctly some bare rock. This may just be some angles in the photograph, but it does look too close to Alpha, so I think this one is now a 0. Something was throwing me off, because I did take 11 seconds on it as my longest task in the station, but that is another mistake I'm pretty sure, and so that one is a 0. Well done if you did manage to get that one right. But then we got some nice tasks for the final two, going out to the end of the wall, and I'm pretty sure that one was Echo for the fourth one, especially lining up from where we said Delta is for the first task, unless that is the wrong gap in the wall and it's actually the gap here. That could be the wrong gap in the wall. Maybe this one is a 0 as well. Yeah, I think this one is a 0. This is probably my worst station then, looking at it, because that does look like it's a third mistake, and this one should be a 0 as Echo is probably on this corner here. Well done if you did manage to get that one right. Before finally we then came to this patch of bare rock, and I can very safely say that this one is Foxtrot. I had to think about it slightly because I was still thinking about whether Charlie was in the right place, but I'm pretty sure that was Foxtrot to end off the station. And with 3 mistakes in this station, I can say this is definitely the worst station for me, but I did think it was still quite a nice station. It's just a couple of little angle tricks to throw you, so well done if you did manage to get that station fully correct. But we then moved on to the penultimate station of the day, and here's where we definitely made at least one error. But what we saw to start with was there was a massive boulder out there with Bravo on it. There's a couple of trees around, but there's also a crag here with Charlie, and there's potentially a tree sticking in the photo here, although that's going to be part of the white woodland as the map loads. And here we want a boulder, and we want the eastern side of that boulder, and to be honest I still don't know what the answer is. I'm thinking now it's probably a 0, because if we're looking here there's a tree and it's about on the same contour as Charlie on the crag, or slightly below it as it's meant to be. So that's the small tree, and then we follow the contour along and see that this is the boulder we actually want, with Delta being on the bigger boulder here and Alpha being on the small boulder here, part of the cluster that we then moved for the second task. And so I'm fairly happy that the first task was a 0 and the second one was Alpha, and I'm glad I did put Alpha twice, because otherwise I would have made 2 mistakes there. But taking 39 seconds, I don't think that's too bad. I'm fairly happy with that, and so I'm happy with that one being Alpha for the second task, unless it's on the wrong boulder. If it is, that's a very cool task, but I'm going to stick with that one being Alpha. We then got a bit more clarity for the final 3 though, as we've already discussed the positions of the next 2 tasks, going to the foot of the crag out the back there in line with the tree contour, and so I'm pretty happy with that one being Charlie. It could be a bit too far back, but I think that's probably too cruel for a internet trailer, so I'm happy with that one being Charlie. And then out to the massive slab of rock that we had anchored ourselves on, kind of, and there does seem to be a lot of open land in front of it, so I was happy to say that one was Bravo for the 4th task. Before finally we came back to the right hand side of the photo, and here we wanted the distinct tree and the southeastern side of that tree. But we look up at the area, and the only distinctive tree I can really see is the Echo tree, apart from the small distinctive tree that we've had here. And so coming back from that could easily be Echo, and I can't see any other trees in the gap in that space. So I think that pretty much has to be Echo, as I can also see a small trunk of a tree going back there behind the rock, which fits as that tree there. And so I was happy to end that station off with Echo, and so it is only 1 mistake there, with the first task actually being 0 rather than Alpha. But that again isn't too bad. That was the tactics I was playing. I wasn't sure which one was right, so I just put Alpha for both of them, and that did seem to pay off, as I was going to 0 the second task. So well done if you did manage to get that station fully correct. I think there was possibly a couple of hard tasks there. But we then came on to the final station of the day, and here I think it was quite a nice fast station to end on. It was my joint fastest station. But looking here in front of us, we have a distinctive tree, we have a couple of rocks to the left and right hand side, and there's a massive rock out the back. So looking at the map here, there is one massive distinctive tree that is circled. That does seem to fit quite nicely, with the rock on the left hand side being here. There's also a square rock on the right hand side there, and also another rock with a boulder coming behind the tree, being the rock and the boulder, all putting Delta on the tree there, definitely on the western side maybe, although I do think the heading is slightly off here, and I would have wanted it slightly rotated anti-clockwise. That does become more apparent in the 4th task, and that actually puts Delta even more onto the western side of that tree. tree, but with no side problems. That was definitely Delta to start off the station. And then for the second task, we move out to a rock to the right hand side of that tree, but it's the eastern rock in the circle, and Echo and Foxtrot on the first one we reach being the western rock. So the one we want is actually back there, and this one is a 0 for the second task. Before we then come to the other side of the tree, and we want this crag, and all we're given is middle of crag, to which I completely disagree with to start with, as the middle of the crag is going to be this corner, but the circle is centered on this side of the crag, and so we're looking up and working our way back from this rock, so that can only be Charlie, as there's a massive gap between the Bravo rock as well, which we've identified. But Charlie is not in the middle of that crag, it's to the northern part of that crag, and so theoretically this one should be a 0, but I do believe it's within 4 meters, especially if we're using the kite height. So I'm going to stick with that one being Charlie for now, but I do think it should have been more to the right hand side. And then for the fourth task, we go back to the foot of the crag all the way back there. This is where I do think the heading threw me, and why I took 11 seconds on this task, because I'm expecting this rock to be to the right hand side of the tree we're looking at, but there's clearly nothing there, and this rock isn't miles in the distance, so there's something extra on the map which shouldn't be. But that's not going to be the case, I believe the mapper, so where else could we be other than this massive rock of Bravo, with Bravo definitely on the foot of that rock. So I was eventually happy to put Bravo for that task, even though I think the heading should be more anti-clockwise. And then finally we went to the fifth task, and we came forward to the patch of bare rock just to the left hand side of the tree we're looking straight at. So really it's clearly Alpha for the final task, just checking that he hasn't pulled another parallel error, but I don't think he has. And so I was very happy to finish that with Alpha to end off the day. And I do think it was a very good day. It does turn out it was 5 or 6 mistakes, but with a forest being a difficult terrain for me, I'm not really surprised. I don't really know where that's going to place me on the leaderboards, but we will just have to see. But thank you to Matt and Rob for putting this together. I did think it was very good fun, and possibly one of the best forest Trelo events we have done on the simulator. But let's go back and have a look and see where I've gone. With a time of about 430 seconds to 460 seconds, you will see that I am in 24, which is possibly higher than I thought I'd be, to be honest, with 5 or 6 mistakes. But it does probably show that this was quite a hard day, and we will have to see how far we fall with 6 hours to go. But we'll see that when you join me later for the overall results. And we are back to see that I have dropped as we expected, but not quite as far as I expected, to be perfectly honest, down to 33rd place, which isn't too bad at all. It's a time of 434 seconds, including a 150-second penalty. That's due to 5 mistakes, which we did think it could be 5 or 6, but it's not quite the 5 that I originally thought. So we will have to go back and look at that, but firstly it is very well done to Aaron for winning today's event by 30 seconds ahead of Christian, and they both made no mistakes, but Christian was still quicker in time than Alessio, who was 33 seconds behind him overall. So very well done to them for winning. It does seem like there are only 3 people maybe who managed to do it with no mistakes, so well done to all of them. In terms of where Aaron won the event though, he managed to win Station 1 and Station 4, which was definitely where he took it, and also coming second in Station 7, where most people in the top 20 seem to be making their mistakes. I think he did a very good job there, so well done to him again. I think to me the most interesting set of percentages here was here in Station 3, where the percentages were lower on average than quite a lot of them, especially in the first and second tasks here, with 52% of you getting the first task right, being 236, with 131 also going with Echo, 63 with Delta, and a couple for the other answers. This was the station that was on the massive sloping rock face going down, and the key thing that I anchored off here was the wall with the line of trees on it as well, so I was happy to say this one was a 0, and the second one was Foxtrot as well. Those two kind of came hand in hand, but if you didn't spot that, I'm not surprised you would have put another answer. However, what surprises me here is only 38% of you got the second one right, with 173 going with Foxtrot and 205 going with 0, and a few for Echo as well. I don't know whether this was just because you were trusting your answers to the first task, and so you were believing that this one was going to be out the photo, or you just didn't see the wall at all. But again, I was very confident in seeing the wall, so that does surprise me quite a lot with a task pointing out the wall for you for the second task, but that does show that this was probably a very hard task. However, the rest of the percentages here, and quite a lot across the board, were very high, and so I think even though it was a very tough day today, there were still quite a few tasks which were very well answered, so well done for doing that. Now we do have a couple of tasks to go back on, as I did mention before, because there was a couple of mistakes I did make when I was talking through them, but they mainly came later in the day with stations 6 and 7. So with station 6, we said that 64 previously was a 0, but it does turn out it was actually Echo in the gap in the wall. However, I'm struggling to see the other gap, and this was the main confusion for me as why I thought this was a 0. However, I have just noticed this is actually a ruined wall wall symbol rather than a wall symbol, and maybe this is the issue I'm having. This is a ruined wall rather than a wall, and so there are gaps in the symbols, and just because the path's there, it makes it seem like it should be a whole wall with gaps. But yeah, it does turn out this one is meant to be Echo, so well done if you did manage to spot that. I definitely thought I had it wrong. In terms of in Station 7 though, it's these first two tasks where I put Alpha for both of them, and it turns out that neither of them were actually Alpha. Where the first task came here and we wanted the eastern side of this boulder, and really looking at it, I was expecting it to be on the same contour as the tree there, which puts it a bit further down and on this boulder. But maybe that's not actually the distinctive tree, or the hill is looking a bit more wonky than I'm expecting, and it's probably a combination of the two to bring you to the actual answer of Delta there, and then going down one boulder to the boulder I thought was 71 instead, and this one is actually a 0. With Alpha surprisingly being either further down on the patches of bare rock with the crags there. So yeah, I didn't really expect that answer at all, but it does show that this station was, for me, the hardest station in the day, and so I think if you did manage to get all of that station right, especially the first two tasks, you did a very good job. But with that, this brings us to the results from the whole series so far, with one more event to go now, and we can see that in first place still is Severin on a 1.3 point lead ahead of Alessio, who is then only 0.3 points ahead of Christian, and that makes up the top 3 going into the final event. But we are currently including 5 scores, and so in tomorrow's event they will only be improving. So Severin has a 97.7 to improve on, so can only gain a maximum of 2.3, whereas Alessio can gain a maximum of 3.2 and Christian can gain a maximum of 2.8. So actually it's looking like if Severin doesn't improve, Alessio is the favourite really for me for first place, but if Severin is able to improve his 97.7, he's almost certainly won. So I think Christian is possibly going to have to settle for at least second place there, and I think it's probably between Severin and Alessio for the win in this final event. But then it's a 4-point gap behind Christian to Ralph, so it's looking like those 3 are going to be the top 3, with Ralph in 4th place, only 0.12 points ahead of Lowry, and then they are a 1.5 ahead of me as well. And so really it's going to be a fight for 4th place between this small group with Yuha as well. Actually, I think with the extent that we can improve, this could be quite interesting. So it is all coming down to this final race, and I'm looking forward to it. In terms of the clubs then, we can see that Massey are again in the lead. They are currently almost 50 points ahead of MDoc there, and it's probably no surprise to see they have won again today, but they have discarded it. It wasn't the best event for them, but with them winning every event, I'm not really surprised. We then have MDoc in 2nd place though, about 20 points ahead of Linkerpings, and then Linkerpings are only 4 points ahead of Krakow. So I'm thinking definitely going to the final race, 1st and 2nd are fairly secure, although not definitely secure for MDoc, and it's going to be a fight really for 3rd place between Linkerpings and Krakow, with MTV Season probably just being too far away, 8 points behind Krakow, but you never know, they could make it up. But yeah, that's going to be a very interesting fight with the clubs. And then finally with the countries, we can see that by no surprise the Italians are still in the lead, but they are a smaller margin in the lead here, being 24 points ahead of the Finns, and it was another win for the Italians today, but this time they included their score, although not many people did. And so I think they are definitely in their fight for 1st and 2nd place, but we have the Swedes in 3rd place, 34 points behind the Finns, and then only 11 points behind them are the Germans, with the Brits 7 points behind them again. So it's probably looking like 3rd place is more likely for the Germans than the Brits, but the Swedes do still have a fairly big margin on them, so it could really be anyone in 3rd to 5th place that takes 3rd, but I think the Swedes definitely have the best chance going. And that does bring us to the end of this 7th event. I think it's a big thank you again to Matt and Rob for putting this together. I thought the event was very fun and challenging in places, which is what I quite like, to be honest. It does show that we all have stuff to learn, and I think I'm definitely looking forward to more Forest events in the future where I can start learning from this one and improving. But with that, that's going to be the end of today's video, so thank you again for watching. If you'd like to like the video as always, and also be subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, making sure you click the bell next to the subscribe button and select all so you're notified whenever I release a video, and also as always be remembering to share these videos. We're again getting very close to 1,000 people competing in the whole series, and as always that number is only going to be improving if you are sharing these videos and the simulator with your orienteering friends, showing them how much fun these events really are and getting them competing. So yeah, make sure you are still doing that, and also be commenting down below any extra bits of analysis you think I've missed from this video and any extra small bits you think I should add. And I will join you again in a couple of days time for the final event in the A category of TORUS Season 3.